All right, I am back. Good morning. Happy Friday. It is Friday. Hopefully, I have sound now. I'm not sure if the sound is working better this time. However, I was having a little technical difficulty prior and was not able to get any sound through. So, if you are able to hear me and if there's any sounds for those of you who are watching, just let me know that you're able to hear me and that would be helpful. Testing. I just want to give a few minutes to just invite some people, or, well, not necessarily invite some people, but uh, give some folks an opportunity to come through. Um, and okay, good morning. If you can hear me, please let me know that you can hear me. So I don't want to start talking and sharing unless I'm certain that the sound is working good. Um, if you're able to hear me, type yes. If you're able to hear me, please type yes. Type yes. Testing, testing. If you're able to hear me, please type. Okay. If you're able to hear me, please type yes. I don't want my lips to just be moving and there's no sound. All right. There's my good girlfriend. Hey, Governor. Good morning. It's so good to see you. You always make my day and you always bring a smile to my face. All right, great. There we go. All right, so let's see. Um, why am I here today? I had a few minutes to kill. I do have someone coming in to see me soon. But I had a few minutes to kill and I just wanted to come out and talk to you guys a little bit. And what I think is really important, I know as we're preparing for this exam and really trying to get our mind right and in the right space to take the exam, we all experience what's that, the anxiety, the worry, the fear, the frustration, the confusion, because it becomes so overwhelming and we get so caught up with what is going to be on the exam or what should I expect to be on the exam, that sometimes I think what happens is that we actually miss the importance of why we're taking the exam. Now, we're taking the exam, in my opinion, I would hope so, for various different reasons. And if you have not yet identified your why, I would encourage you to do that. Having a why and understand why you're doing what you're doing is pretty much, in my mind, like setting a goal. It's like seeing your outlook. It's like having something that you're working toward. If the purpose of taking this exam is simply so that you don't lose your job or that you could get that job so that you could get out of this job, what that's going to do in and of itself, in my opinion, and basically everything that I'm sharing here with you guys, is just simply my opinion. There's no right or wrong, but it's just my opinion. You could receive it or you could discharge it. Either way, I won't be offended, but I'm just sharing you from my perspective, my opinion, and from my own personal experience. But back to what I was saying, if we're just taking this exam just to maintain a job or keep a job, that in and of itself is what's going to raise that anxiety. Just thinking about losing your job or not having any income or not knowing what you're going to do next because I don't have this license, so I'm going to be out of a job. You're going to approach this exam in such a way that it's going to be intimidating. It's going to cause fear. It's going to make you worried or anxious about the potential likelihood of what could be if I don't pass this exam. And worry is, as we all know, worry is actually thinking on things that haven't even happened yet. So we're worrying about something that haven't even come to pass just yet, instead of being present in the moment and in this space and seeing and recognizing where we are and what is happening now. Are you a master's level social worker? Everybody should be typing, yes, I am, in the comment section as I speak. Yes, I am a social worker. So what that suggests to me is that you have the tool, the skills, the knowledge, and the know-how to do what it is that you're setting out to do. You have what it takes to accomplish this exam and to be what it is that you're trying to become, or to accomplish what it is that you're trying to accomplish. You've already done it. Now, why the exam? The exam is set and designed for those of us who are passionate about what it is that we're doing, have a goal in mind and have intentions of following through with this as a career path. Okay, so sometimes we find ourselves in a master's program or different master's program and not really sure what we want to do, but you know what, this seemed like it's something that I could do. And so we go and we move forward. But my understanding, if you're in this particular group, if you're holding a master's degree, if you are prepping and preparing for the exam, then that tells me you have a deeper why. So identify your why. My why is where I'm sitting at right now. What you see here is my office, my private practice. This is my why. My why is to see these walls grow, extend, to become something greater and something more. Establish your why, understand your why, and it cannot be simply about making money. It has to be something greater. Okay, now that we established that, knowing the importance of the why, understanding that, you know, the exam is designed to help us to become more proficient in terms of how we're thinking, how we're analyzing, how we're assessing, how we're viewing, how we're problem solving and working through all the situations that we deal with on a daily basis as social worker, then your mindset will change. They're not here, in my opinion, to confuse us and to get us all jammed up and to, you know, just take our money, as some people would say. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, if you fail, you got to go through all the process of paying it again. Yes, you got to pay for all these study material and study tools and yada, yada, yada. But show me a field that is reputable and worth being in that field, that you don't have to go through the same credentialing process to be identified as an expert in that field. Let's think about a doctor. Will you go and see a dentist that does not have the credentials, a DR? I know I wouldn't. Why not? Because in my mind, just because he says he's a dentist doesn't make me feel comfortable or understand that I believe that he know what it is that he's doing. But upon seeing the DR in front of his name, that in and of itself to me says that he has the qualification, he has the certification, he have the knowledge and the skill, and he's met the basic minimum requirements to have what he need to have to be able to operate and work on my mouth. True, right? All right. So I could do that for a lot of different professions. We got optometrists, we got doctors, we got professors. We can't call a person a professor unless they got, you know, the PhD or the doctor in front of their name. That signifies that they have the education and the level and the skill of knowledge that that is needed to be able to teach you what it is that you need to know as well. So like I said, I could do several different examples like that, but that's not, you know, going to change the fact that in order to be established and recognized and appreciated as a professional in the field, as a social worker in the field, you're going to need to get that license. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Hello, this is Bridget speaking. Okay, can you actually give me 10 more minutes? All right, thank you. Bye-bye. All right, so my appointment is here. She actually got here a little bit early, and that's okay. So, with that being said, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm in the office and I'm working, and I was trying to kill some time. And the technical difficulties that actually happened first got in the way. So, really, I wanted to come in out and talk to you real quick about the helping process and understanding that and understanding what it is. We are a helping profession. That's what we do. We help folks. We help folks achieve their goal, accomplish their goals, alleviate problems, deal with situations, work through their social, emotional, behavioral problems, whatever, you know, whatever area of social work you're in a area of social work that is considered a helping profession. Why is it important to understand the helping process and what it is and what it means? Well, really, all in all, is what you do every single day. There's no way that you cannot tell me as a social worker that you do not use the social work process or use the helping process. And so what this exam is actually helping you to learn and helping you to do is recognize and see what it is that you do on a daily basis. They want to know if you know. So don't just do what you do, but make sure you have an understanding of what it is that you do. When you get a new client, when you meet someone for the first time, you're not going to just go out there and just jump into trying to figure out what's going on. No, it's a process. There's stages and there's phases and there's a process in being able to get the information that you need to get from your clients. If you really want good information, if you really want to be able to help this client, if you really want to understand what's going on with them, then you're going to work the process. And that work in that process is first being able to develop a good working relationship. And that working relationship is understanding, having a rapport, being able to build a rapport with your client. And what is a rapport? In other words, a rapport is being able to help the client feel comfortable with you as a social worker, as their therapist, as their caseworker, as their school social worker, as their policy maker, etc. Whatever area of social work you're in, you cannot get what you need from your clients, from your consumers, from your constituents, unless you have a working relationship, and that is a good rapport. You engage your client, you do various techniques and skills in the initial phase of treatment, in the initial phase of that process, so that they can feel comfortable with knowing who you are. Relationship building is the way that you get your client to understand who you are, to know who you are. And this is a way that you get to know who your client is. In relationship building, some of the most important factors that you need to have, or some of the most important skills that you need to be able to develop or have in order to develop that relationship, I'm just going to say a few, is one, being able to establish trust with your client, right? You cannot accomplish, you cannot have a good working relationship if your client does not trust you. And how does your client trust you? You know, your client will develop that trust in you if you're able to be genuine, you know. I don't know how else to be but be me. What I give you all, what you see is me. This is just me. This is just who I am. Whether I'm talking to you here, whether I'm talking to you outside, whether I'm talking to you on the phone, this is just who I am. This is just what I do. And being genuine. And people can tell when you're being genuine. They can feel it. They can experience. It comes across, and it's just there. It's just a natural. I believe 90% of my clients I achieve, having the clients that I have, simply because of my genuineness, my ability to establish relationship and build rapport. In building a relationship and establishing a rapport, like I said, you need trust, but you also need the skill of listening. All right. Listening is a technique. There is definitely a technique to being able to listen. Because we're helpers and we're in a helping profession, we're often ready to give advice. We're often ready to speak. We're often ready to kind of identify what's going on and hear what's wrong with what they're saying, or give them advice in terms of what they could do or recommendations. No, sometimes the best thing that you can do is just listen. Listen involves various different types of techniques. You got reflective listening, where I'm hearing what you're saying, I'm taking it in. And in order for me to help you know that I'm listening to you and I'm paying attention to you and I'm with you and I understand, I reflect that back to you. Okay? So I reflect back what I heard you say. Okay? Then there's active listening. Active listening is pretty much, again, it's kind of like in the same family of reflective listening, but in active listening, you're like, yes, go on, tell me more, and different things like that. So you're giving them a heads up and cues to let them know that you're actually there with them and that you're listening. Silence. Yes, silence. Silence is magic. Sometimes you have to take that moment and just be silent. Just don't say anything. And even if the client gets silent, match that. It's called congruence. Match the client. Go silent, because what's happening, they're thinking. What's happening, they're processing. What's happening, they're kind of formulating, oh, and they're realizing some things. So be congruent. Silence match silence. Silence equals silence. Nonverbal cues. Body language is everything. So how you sit, you smile, you're nodding, and sometimes, you may need to, match their attitude as well, in terms of, the facial expressions and stuff like, yeah, all right. And it's okay. Trust me when I say this. If you're able to do these things, watch and see how your relationship with that client grows. They're going to be more open and more inclined to being able to feel comfortable with talking to you and opening up and sharing with you. You have empathetic responding, right? Empathetic responding is nothing but showing empathy, being able to identify or hear what the client is saying and not let them know that you know what's going on with them, but you kind of understand. Even if you didn't have their experience, you can understand. And being able to show empathy with another person and being there with them and being present with them, that does a world of difference. Clarification is simply one of those things where the client is talking or someone is talking, you don't quite understand or you don't quite hear what they're saying, or you're not really sure if you're on the same page. You ask for clarification, and that's okay. There's many different ways you can use this skill of clarification to acknowledge and let the client know that you're there with them, and to clarify what it is that they're saying, to let them know that we're on the same page and that you're following along. And these different things will take you a long way. We also know the skill of acknowledging and normalizing feelings, which is so important. Never take away what the client is feeling. Never take away or dumb down or make them feel bad about what it is that they're going through, or hype them up or scare them even more. Whatever it is that they're feeling or they're expressing to you, you acknowledge that. You acknowledge that feeling. You hear that feeling. And sometimes they're giving you a thought as a feeling. And a good clinician can, be able to assess that and pull that out. When a client is really trying to identify a feeling, but they don't know how to reach for it, and they start giving you a thought, and then that's where your reflective listening come into play, and you reflect back the feeling. And then if they identify with that feeling, you clarify that, you acknowledge it, and then you normalize it. Am I making any kind of sense? I hope so, because I feel like I'm just ramming. But I just want you to understand that these skills are so important. The beginning phase of treatment, the building blocks of the relationship. If you don't have it, you have nothing else. And lastly, I just want to talk about unconditional positive regard. Okay, that is just where you're allowing the client to be who they are, allowing them to do what they do, allowing them to say what it is that they say, and there's no judgment. No judgment. We're not here to judge our client. We're not here to impress our morals, our belief, our values, our expectations on our clients. We're here to hear what their situation is, understand what their situation is, and assist them in identifying a way that they work through the process to get to where they need to be who it is that they want to be. That, my friend, is the beginning phase of treatment. That, my friend, is engagement. That, my friend, is establishing rapport. That, my friend, is bringing the client into you and you bringing the client into them so that you can easily transition and move to the next phase of treatment. That next phase of treatment would be the middle phase, where you start now that the client feels comfortable with you, now that the client has an understanding of who you are, now that the client feels that you're genuine and you're there with them and that you're listening, now they feel free to start sharing with you. So as you start that interview and as you start asking them different questions and pertinent questions that's going to lead you to your assessment, they'll be more inclined to open up. So in the middle phase of treatment, this is where we're gathering that information. We're collecting data, we're interviewing, we're pulling, all the information that we need so that we can do what? Identify the problem, identify the concern, identify the issue, identify the need, identify whatever is going on. And listen to me. Those practice questions, it is your job, if you get nothing else out of what I say today, those practice questions, it is your job to be able to identify the problem. You identify what is going on, what's the need, what's the concern, what is it that I'm trying to do here or I need to do here. And gathering the information and collecting the data and listening to the client and establishing that, after you get all that information and that data, you synthesize it, pull it together. And synthesizing and pulling that information together, you then do what? Assess. You can't assess unless you got information to assess. You can't assess without information. You can't get the information without the relationship. You need the relationship. The relationship gives you the information. The information allows you to assess. Once you're able to assess, then you can move forward. You identify the problem. You assess the situation. You identify the problem. From there, we move on to treatment planning. Are you guys still with me? Treatment planning. Notice I said treatment planning. I didn't say goals. I said treatment planning. Treatment planning is a broader term. Treatment planning is a broader perspective. So in that treatment planning, we're going to establish goals, objectives, and action steps, or we could call them tasks. We're going to establish goals. Goals are long-term. Objectives, the objectives are the short-term goals. And the action step are the tasks or the interventions or the things that you will implement to help the client reach their ultimate long-term goal. Goal, long-term. Objective, short-term. Tasks or action steps or interventions to accomplish the long-term goal. Once we implement all of that, we start working on it. We're putting in the interventions, and interventions can be a plethora of things. Interventions can be making referrals, can be doing counseling, can be going to the grocery store, can be, it all depends. The interventions are going to tie into what your goals are. They're the action steps, they're the baby steps. If my long-term goal is to get to that door, my objective should be first to be able to get up out of this seat. That's my short-term goal. And then my action steps, y'all ready? Are to take the next steps that I need to do to get to the goal. Do that make sense? Long-term goal, going out that door. My objective, getting up out of this seat. My action steps or my interventions, I have to walk. That's my intervention. And so you have to think strategically and structurally like that. This exam is about strategic, structural thinking, analyzing, understanding, and reasoning. Strategic, structural thinking, analyzing, understanding, and reasoning. There has to be an explanation, a reason behind everything that you do. And the reason should tie into what the issue and the problem is. I hope that makes sense. Take notes, guys. I can't promise you I can remember what I'm saying, because once my brain starts going and I get to talking, things be coming out. I don't know what else I'm saying next. All right. So we got the treatment plan, and after the treatment planning, we're working on our treatment plan goals and we're implementing interventions. We then evaluate. Once we get to a point of, constantly working through the treatment plan, we begin to evaluate or assess the treatment plan goals and how the client is doing and seeing the progress that they've made. And if you need to make any adjustments or add any goals or take away any goals, whatever the case may be. All in all, the evaluation will let you know where you're at and if you're ready to move to that phase of termination. After the evaluation, you recognize the client had met all their goals and they're not in need of any more assistance, then you can move to that termination phase. In that termination phase, or that is that in that ending phase of treatment. So many other ways that we end up in a termination phase. Sometimes it could be abrupt. Sometimes it could be because you have to leave. Sometimes it could be because the client just stopped showing up or just didn't, whatever that case may be. Termination is ending that session. And a lot of times, more times than not, we have successful terminations. We have successful closing of a situation, and that's where we find ourselves. I actually have to go, but what I just did is briefly ran through the helping process, briefly gave you information on how to use the helping process, or how you use the helping process on a daily basis, and understanding that your test questions are not going to be written in such a way that's saying, okay, in the middle phase of treatment, or here, now that we're in this phase of treatment or this particular session, what should you do? No, but if you have an understanding, a working knowledge, a platform, or a blueprint of how the helping process works, knowing the phases of the helping process will help you understand what you need to do and what interventions you need to put in place in that particular phase. In the beginning phase of treatment, you're not going to be treating the client like you're terminating. But in the beginning phase of treatment, remember, we're using reflective listening, active listening skills, silence, congruence, nonverbal cues, empathetic responding, clarification, acknowledging and normalizing, and unconditional positive regard. In the middle phase of treatment, we're data collecting, developing goals, implementing interventions and strategies, and evaluating. Okay, I'm giving you guys keywords so that you can know what you're doing in these phases of treatment. And then in the final phase of treatment, you're terminating, you're bringing it to an end, you're culminating, you're discharging, you're aftercare planning, you're following up, you're doing all those particular interventions in the final phase of treatment. Know your phase of treatment. Knowing your phase of treatment, you know which intervention to use. Knowing which intervention to use, you also need to know in which order and what comes first, next, best, and most. I hope this was helpful. I hope you were able to gather something out of this. And I am going to upload this. I'm going to upload it, and I'll upload it for a little bit. But then afterwards, I'll put it on my Yondo page. And for anyone that kind of want to go through it again and take some detailed notes, it'll be available for you there. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this session, and I will talk to you soon. Leave me some feedback. If you want some more in-depth one-to-one information about how to work through the helping process, you can inbox me through instant messenger. Please, only people that are really interested, because I really don't have that kind of time. So if you're interested in some one-to-one structured tutoring, you can inbox me and we could talk a little bit more there. I can't spend too much time with folks and just keep answering, individual questions. But if you need some individualized work, I can give you an hour of service that way. I look forward to talking to you guys soon, and have a blessed day on purpose. Bye.